Hey there, Wolfpack fans. It's me again, Kenton Gibbs, bringing you another episode of Locked On Wolfpack. And this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Thanks to them for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/locked on college. Terms and conditions do apply. Now, folks, we have a ton going on in terms of conference realignment. NC State football is buzzing in recruiting. There's a lot to tackle. There's a lot of BS and riffraff to cut through. And so today I brought on a special friend, a man who needs no introduction, an absolute legend in the game, the one, the only Brett Friedlander. How you doing, Brett?
I'm doing great, Kenton. Just got back from the Florida Keys. I'm wearing my Flamingo shirt, and we have football media days coming up next week, so it's all good.
Well, listen, I might match your Flamingo shirt energy. As you can see, I got my Hawaiian shirt behind me right here, ready to roll for ACC Media Days. This is my first year being a credential member of the media, so you got to show me, the what to dos and what nots while we're there, as well as food spots there, because I'm a big food guy. The defensive tackle in ACC, that appetite never left me, even though I've been removed for a while. So we got a lot to cut through today, Brett, because we're going to focus in on two tweets in particular that I think are very indicative of what's going on with a lot of things in conference realignment. And we'll talk about a lot of the very real possibilities of conference realignment. And you're one of the few people I know that have read the Grant of Rights front to back, up and down, the fine print, the ugly print, all the print. You read it. So we're going to get into it, all right?
Yep, sounds good to me.
All righty. Well, listen, it's a lot of craziness to get through, but get through this episode with us on today's episode of Locked On Wolfpack.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, Brett, I know that you've seen all this stuff going on around conference realignment, and I know I don't get paid much to do this, and this ain't my full-time job, and I've still been reaching out at the highest levels I can find, so I know you've done your due diligence at all levels. And as far as what's going on with conference realignment and me saying that, we're going to get into some tweets today, I want to pull up the first one, which I used as the title picture for one of my episodes not too long ago. And this is from Braden Keith of Swim Swam. North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, and Virginia are all negotiating to join the SEC. ESPN is trying to void their TV deal with the ACC. Now, Brett, how much legitimacy do you put into that? And again, we know that you're a person who's read the NIL in depth, so please feel free to interject as much of it as you see fit.
Well, it's a swimming website and one that is not real mainstream. I would not put a whole lot of faith in it, because I can tell you that these things are done very quietly, as you saw with the Southern Cal and UCLA. It came out of the blue. There was not a whole lot of advance warning. Coaches in particular are the last ones to find out about this before the public. So I don't put a whole lot of stake in that. Now, has the Big Ten, the SEC, reached out and maybe discussed these things? I think that that's probably the case. But in serious negotiations, good luck, because that grant of rights, it's going to take a whole team of lawyers and a lot of money to find a loophole to get out of that, because these ACC teams, while I do eventually think that there could be some trouble and that there could be some movement, it's not going to happen for quite some time. I don't know if it's going to be the entire term of the grant of rights, which runs to 2036, but it's not happening overnight. And for those of you who have heard the term grant of rights, don't understand what it means. Basically, here's what it is. All 15 ACC teams, and that includes Notre Dame and everything except for football, have signed a contract that is, the best I can tell, pretty darn ironclad, that guarantees the ACC their media rights through the length of the contract, which I say, runs through 2036. So if an ACC team wants to leave, so say North Carolina wants to leave to the Big Ten, not only would they have to pay an exit fee of upwards of $30 million, but all of their money that they would make from their media rights until the end of the contract, that would be, again, 2036, would go to the ACC. So everything that they would make from the Big Ten network, the ACC would get, not North Carolina. And all rights to their home games would go to the ACC network. So even though they were in the Big Ten, their games at home would be the property of the ACC. So there's really no financial benefit to leaving right now. Now, like I said, I would be shocked if there weren't a whole team of lawyers looking at that contract, trying to figure out a way around it. But it's very specific in its language, and I don't see that happening, at least for a while.
I don't think that people realize how far out 2036 is and how much can change in the college landscape between now and then. Like, everybody keeps saying, well, this team could go and this team could go. They're the only teams that I think have a serious chance of leaving to begin with is teams that are basically grandfathered in with huge fan bases and just money out the wazoo, whether they're winning, losing, don't matter. The only team that I see that fits that criteria in the ACC is Florida State. That's it. That's it. Clemson is good now. In 10 years, who knows what they'll look like? Who knows? We can, for example, I'll take you back. So we talked about the granted rights being up in 2036. Let's go back 14 years, shall we? 14 years from 2022. We're looking at 2008. Let's talk about the 2008 ACC football standings and all the things that were different. Number one, Maryland was still in the conference. Number two, Boston College was the winner of the Atlantic. Number three, Virginia Tech was the winner of the Coastal, with Georgia Tech very close behind, nipping on their heels. Do you understand? Do y'all get where I'm going when I say this is not a situation that we're going to see resolved in a year or two just because everybody's talking and everybody's buzzing and whispering? Even if you look at the teams that have left so far, Texas A&M left under the conditions of their contract was up and they just did not renew. Oklahoma and Texas are leaving under the exact same premise. The Big 12's new contracts, they're just not renewing. They're not coming back. UCLA and USC, I believe it's the same situation. Am I incorrect there? I believe
yes,
that the Pac-12 is.
I believe there's a couple of years that they still have to wait it out, but it's close to the end of the contract, and that's the thing about the ACC. They made that contract. You can say what you want about the TV contract, and it's not a great contract. But the fact that Swofford got everybody to sign that piece of paper that says they're locked into it until 2036 was a genius move. Because to be honest with you, I think within at least the next 10 years, there's more chance of the ACC adding teams than there is of losing teams.
Yeah, and that's what I was. I did an episode of where the best landing spot would be for NC State. But again, I think that the most realistic scenario is that they stay put. Is that everything stays exactly as the ACC, as far as the teams that are already here. Could we expand and get more teams? Yes, possibly. I can see that happening. But again, you're asking somebody to pay out millions. And by the way, Maryland, despite being in the Big Ten for nearly a decade now, is still not fully getting their cut of Big Ten revenue. And you think that these teams are going to go do that for another conference for what reason? So they're going to take a reduced cut of the cut that they get from the bigger conference and pay out to leave this conference, and the home games are still the rights of this conference based upon what information? And again, the most egregious part of that tweet to me, ESPN is trying to find a way to void their deal. ESPN is trying to find a way to void the deal that everybody said they got the best of?
Why would you cost yourself money? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's what ESPN would be doing. It makes zero sense. And you know what? Swim or whatever the name of that website is got some publicity. They got a crap ton of hits, I'm sure. So they win.
They had a spot on 99.9 The Fan. They had a spot on 99.9 The Fan the other day. So that's, whatever they accomplished, whatever their goal was to accomplish with that, even if it was just to swat at the hornet's nest and get some folks acting up and all that, it worked. It worked because I never thought that I would be having an in-depth conversation about anything called Swim on this show, but here we are. And you know what? We're going to come back to this and we're going to talk about more of what's going on and all that. But again, this moment in history is a very interesting time in which guys like us, sports journalists, have a very, 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 what's the word I'm looking for? A great responsibility to keep the public informed based on, again, what we know. Not what will get the most clicks, be the most fun.
It's summertime. There's not a whole lot going on in the way of actual games, okay? Mm-hmm. And you need something to talk about. And boy, oh boy, this is something to talk about. And, all these scenarios. Well, what if? And here's my idea for these two great mega conferences. And it's fun to talk about. And like you said, gets a lot of clicks. But there's not a lot of substance in there. It's...
exactly.
Unless you're talking about maybe West Virginia coming to the ACC or UConn coming to the ACC and them going to 16, 18 teams to try to combat this and to strengthen their position. But, if you're talking about a mass exodus and the end of the ACC as we know it here within the next couple of years, it ain't happening.
Exactly. Again, like I said, we got a great responsibility, a great job to do. So let's go out and do it, fellow journalist folks. Let's go out and do it well, all right? And speaking of jobs, I got to talk about LinkedIn Jobs. As the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people that you want to interview faster. And trust me, folks, I am a technical recruiter who uses the thing a lot. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster, and also 40 million job seekers every week visit LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So, Brett, we've got one more tweet to talk about here. And this one is from Sports News or Sports Channel 8. And this one says, source, a North Carolina university will make a major announcement today regarding a move to a new athletic conference. This ain't swim. And that is not something I'm throwing in. That's what Sports Channel 8 said. That was over 24 hours ago. We're still waiting on the news. So with what we just talked about, as far as the granted rights and, all that good stuff, and let's just be honest. We all know that all this movement is driven by football. Because if it wasn't, then people wouldn't be talking about Notre Dame as the biggest free agent. It would be Notre Dame and Kansas are potentially the biggest free agent. And yet I have not heard anybody beating down the door in Lawrence. Hey, Bill Self, talk to us. Come talk to us. So what do you think that announcement is?
Well, first of all, let me just say Notre Dame, everybody's talking about how that's the domino that needs to fall to kind of set off the chain reaction. They're not doing anything either, by the way. Why would Notre Dame get in the Big Ten, the ACC, or anybody else? They've got their own TV contract that when it's up here in a couple of years, there's going to be a bidding war over them. So they get to keep all the money. And as long as the playoff expands, or at least they stay in the playoff pool where they can get in without having to win a conference championship, why would they go anywhere? So let's just nip that in the bud as well. Now, let's get to Sports Channel 8 here. As opposed to folks like Nicole Auerbach and some of these other national people who are throwing these things out there who should know better, Sports Channel 8 does know better. Sports Channel 8 is a parody site. They're having a little fun. I like those guys, and what they do is great, and they've got some incredible, funny bits. And I think that basically what they're doing is they're just kind of throwing something out there, and it might be something that's substantive. It might be something that involves East Carolina or UNC Charlotte or North Carolina Central, or whatever. I don't think it has anything to do with ACC. And the fact that you haven't heard anything, to me, says that they're spoofing people. So we have to keep our eyes open on that. But when you see something on Sports Channel 8, take it with a grain of salt and kind of realize that there's probably some humor involved with it.
And this is a thing that I'm trying to tell people and get everybody to understand right now. And this ain't a shot at Sports Channel 8.
They're basically playing everybody.
Exactly. The anybody who is seriously purporting to have insider information on these things, I can tell you right now, again, the only people in the room for these conversations are the heads, the directors, the maybe vice presidents, or the maybe assistant to the commissioner or assistant commissioners or whatever, and the number guys, the number gals. That's it.
Yep.
That's all.
Because the more people that know about things like that, the easier they are to slip out. And if they slip out, those contracts get messed up. So you saw it with Texas and Oklahoma last year. You saw it with Southern Cal and UCLA. You don't hear about these things until 10 hours, 12 hours before they become official.
Let me tell you something. I remember we found out about Texas and Oklahoma literally, what was it, like right before Big 12
Well, this time
days?
last year. Well, yeah, like right before we went to Charlotte for ACC Media Week. Yeah.
Yep. It was right before Big 12 Media Days, and they said that Texas wasn't there. And maybe it was like a conference meeting of some sort. It was a conference meeting that was already scheduled, and Texas and Oklahoma just didn't show. And it was like, who-wee? And it was like a day before.
Yep.
So again, these conversations are not being had. It's not a roundtable meeting with every team, and there's one team that's like, "Hey guys, I'm not gonna be here in 3 years. Y'all boys be."
It's like, where are they? And then when they call them up and say, "Hey, we had a meeting today," it's like, "Hey, peace out."
And that's my point exactly.
Let me just say something else too. And again, this doesn't change anything we've talked about. I don't think anything is getting ready to happen. I don't think anything's going to happen for the foreseeable future. But knowing that there is a chance that something could eventually happen, some lawyer can look at that contract and say, aha, this is how we get out of it. It behooves NC State to win the Atlantic Division and probably even the ACC this year. Because if by some chance there is an exodus, the only way NC State becomes relevant enough nationally for either one of those two major conferences to be interested in adding it is for them to be a champion, to them to show that they can pull their weight in football and be a team that people talk about that moves the needle outside of North Carolina.
And that is, I've talked to fans about what fans can do, and that's, people always wonder why I don't criticize NC State fans as a whole, because again, they're black helicopter guys, whatever. Guess what? Black helicopter guys drive clicks. People who care about things drive clicks. Be it a conspiracy theory, be it celebrating, be it moaning and whining in defeat, it does not matter. If you can show interest in your program, that's what gets it going. From the fan side, from the team side, I 1,000% agree. The winning is important.
It's not about fan support. I mean, there is no question that NC State is one of the best supported programs in the country.
Right.
Okay. And I mean, look at attendance at Carter Finley. Look at, like you said, the engagement on social media. That's not the problem. The problem is that NC State outside of this area doesn't move the needle, because if you talk to somebody in, say, Ohio or Texas or Florida or anywhere else, and you ask them about college programs in North Carolina, what are they going to say? Who are they going to talk about?
Probably Duke and the boys in Baby Blue, more likely than not. But here's my counterpoint to that. UCLA, who knows anything about that? But they have the benefit of the second largest city in America. That's a large part of their fan base. Again, it's if you can win, that's the end all be all. Because if you look at Clemson, again, if we go back 14 years and have this exact same conversation, Nobody is saying the SEC wants Clemson bad.
They just fired a
Nobody's
Bowden
saying.
and hired some guy named Dabo for crying out loud back then, right?
Exactly.
Who knew? But the thing is, though, if you're NC State, the only way you can change that perception is to do something that catches the attention of the people in Ohio, in Texas, in California, and doing, beating Clemson at Death Valley and winning the Atlantic Division and getting to the ACC championship game and then winning that game and going to either the playoff, or even if you don't get into the playoff, even if you go to the Orange Bowl, that is the kind of thing that gets people's attention. And that's the kind of thing that will get you relevant outside of this area. And listen, right now the window is wide open. And like you said, you never know how long it's going to stay that wide open. Take advantage of the opportunity now while you have it, because Devin Leary is going to the NFL after this year. All right. That defense, Drake Thomas will probably be in the NFL next year. And so now listen, Dave Doran and his staff have done an outstanding job over the last 3 years, and including this one, of recruiting and deepening the talent pool in the program. And so the chances of it becoming a program where you have guys that just you plug in the next guy up, it's there, but you just never know. So take advantage of it now while you have the opportunity.
And I talked about this with Noah Rogers committed to Ohio State and all that. The reality is now more than ever for certain positions, offensive line, defensive line, wide receiver in particular, you look at guys who are now understanding, if I'm the only bad guy here, if I'm the only guy that demands a double team here, I'm going to get the double team. But if it's me and him demanding the double team, well, now let's do some math here. You only got 11 guys on the field. You need to double 2 of us, which means 4, which means you only have 7 dedicated now to 9. The math ain't math in there. Somebody got to be single cover. Somebody, you got to trust the guy blocking as far as an offensive line goes. If you're talking about a defensive lineman that's just they know that they're the craziest edge rusher that the world has ever seen. Well, if it's a bad dude on the other side of me, now you can't say I'm a double kitten the entire game, because if you do that, that guy goes and gets off. And so now you're stuck. Who am I going to give it up to? And that's the reality. A lot of players are aware of the fact that they want to be a pick your poison guy as opposed to the one and only. And so if NC State shows that they can win and has a great pool of talent already here, more the guys who are the dude will want to be here.
You know what else too? Look how many NC State quarterbacks are in the league. Look at Ike Ekwonu going in the top 6 picks, and look at how many other starting offensive linemen there are in the league from NC State. Look at wide receivers. Jacoby Myers getting a big contract. Look, those are things that they also see. Where did those guys go? Oh my God, they went to NC State. You know what? That's the way for me to get in the league, for me to be a starter, for me to get a big contract. Those kind of things matter as well.
Exactly. So I think it's very clear that this is, I'm not saying that this is a situation where NC State is lost in the water and there's nothing they can do. Absolutely not. There's a lot NC State can do. Again, we will never be Los Angeles. We will never have the sheer volume in Raleigh to be Los Angeles. That's fine. But what does need to happen is the winning part, is the fans staying engaged, go watch the things, all that good stuff. Sure. But again, as the team, all they can do is win. And you know what? I'm betting that we see a few wins from them this season. And if you're a bettor, go to betonline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. Find all the latest sports development, league reviews, and news, including this year's Major League Baseball season, as well as football, which is right around the corner. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. Head to the website today to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So we're about to land this thing, but Brett, help me out. What are the do's and don'ts of ACC Media Days? And also, if you're listening to this episode, please know I am fielding questions that you all want to hear asked or that you all want answers to going forward for Media Day. So if you're hearing my voice right now, thank you for sticking around to the end. Also, feel free to drop them in the comments on YouTube or on my Twitter page at @LO_Wolfpack, and we'll get into it as well. But what are the do's and don'ts of ACC Media Days, Brett?
I have 2 do's for you.
Okay.
And one involves with actual working, and the other one is a little bit off the beaten path.
Mm-hmm.
When NC State has its breakout time in the breakout room for the media, make sure you get in there early, because if you don't, you're going to get crowded out. You'll be like second or third row deep, and you won't be able to get good audio. So make sure you get in there early around the table that you want, and be ready to go when they get started. Don't just show up, a couple of minutes before they go in. That's number one. Number 2, pace yourself when it comes to the food, okay? Because they'll serve you breakfast, all right? There'll be Bojangles there in the afternoon as a little snack. They'll have lunch and everything. But the real prize that you want to save room, because they usually bring out some ice cream, and they've got these black and white cookies that that are like sugar cookies, but they're not black and white. They're black and white kind of cookies, but they're decorated with blue and white, ACC stuff on it. So you want to leave plenty of room for that. You don't want to get filled up. So to pace yourself when it comes to the food.
Okay. All right. So I got the word here. You heard it from the man who's been to ACC Media Days since probably before I started walking. Get to the breakout rooms early and pace yourself in terms of food. Well, Brett, thank you so very much for coming out, man. Tell the folks where they can find your work.
At Be Freed ACC. That's like Be Fried ACC. Or you can catch me at nsjonline.com/sports.
The man is covering all the minor league stadiums in North Carolina this summer. So if you're into baseball, if that's your thing, trust me, he's doing a great profile on it. And let me tell you, the dedication it takes to hit every single minor league, all 10 of them, all 10. I guarantee you, most of the listeners cannot name 5 minor league teams in the state of North Carolina. And
they're all over from sea to shining sea. I'm going to Hickory and Asheville this weekend, and they'll be my 9th and 10th stops. So,
so we're coming to an end here. That's what we got going on.
Football starts next week, right? We're going to be in Charlotte, so I got to get it done.
Absolutely. Camp season is upon us. The smell of grass is in there. The smell of the fresh cut grass is in there. It's about that time, y'all. But anywho, it's about that time for us to get on out of here. Thank y'all so very much for coming out and making this show what it is. We appreciate you every single time. Peace and love, y'all. And as always, go Pack.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.